20 something, I'm 20 something.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our channel and our podcast, 20 Something Confessions, where we basically are here to share our ups and downs in our life and our journeys in our 20s. I'm Isabel.
I'm Angela, and today we're diving into something more serious, one that's close to our hearts.
Today, we're going to be talking about some dark times that we've both faced in our lives during our 20s and how we've basically come out stronger on the other side of things. And before we begin,
we also wanted to acknowledge that discussing these difficult experiences can be very sensitive sometimes to people, and our goal today is just basically to connect with people who may be going through similar experiences like us, and we just want to remind you guys that you guys aren't alone. And also, due to timing and privacy issues, we're probably just going to be sharing one story on both sides, Angela and mine.
So let's get straight into it. Angela, we can go first with you. Can you talk to us about a challenging experience or a period in your life and what it was like for you and how you got through it?
So before we get started, I didn't know how I'm still reacting to this. I just thought that it's going to be really easy to share this publicly, but just like when I'm going to talk about it right now, it honestly is very, very hard, like to be very open to the public about this, honestly. I honestly typed up a long paragraph. I was planning to share this on my Instagram for my 20th birthday. It's gonna be like a post type of thing, but just like when I'm gonna talk about it right now, it's still pretty hard. But let me just read what I typed up. I wanted to share a brief story of life in my early 20s on my profile. I'm sure everyone have a crazy story of their own, and here's a very surface level of mine. As some of you might know, a very vulnerable part of my life is that I don't have contact with my family in San Francisco anymore. And I was born and raised in San Francisco. That's where my family is based in, whether it's my parents or siblings. Now to everyone on this platform, I haven't spoken to my family since 2019, so technically disowned. A lot comes down to finance and strictness, but this is how it all started. I'm giving life a little throwback. Still remember in my high school years when mom said to me, since I wanted to major in electrical engineering, to not work during college and focus on school, she'll pay for everything and that I'll repay it back after I graduate and start my career. Now my personality, of course, I didn't follow those words, and in sophomore year of college, I started working and internshipping while being a full-time student in school and pay for everything myself. Now, fast forward to right after I finished college, of course, my parents needed me to repay all of freshman year's costs back. And a few months later, I had to leave my family / being disowned. And this was not by choice in the very beginning. So this whole situation was mainly because when I was in college, I went to a lot of parties and raves, and I honestly would go like to parties 3 times a week. I would when we're at parties, definitely a lot of alcohol, and then you would get drunk and pass out and all that. So I would say a lot of that comes down to my parents just being very, they just really care about my safety and making sure that I'm fine. And it's just that, like, even right now, I know my parents still love me. I just want to put it out there that I know that every parent out there is really loving to their own child, but sometimes it's just that parents might not know how to give love in terms of like how a person wants to receive it, right? So I know that all parents is still learning how to be a parent, and that like I know my parents are still checking up on me because I still talk to my relatives, and I'm sure my parents would talk to my relatives about me and stuff. So yeah, but continue on. So I have no contact with my parents and my San Francisco family after that, but I know that they're doing very well right now. But honestly, this all happened during 2019. It all started around April when I was about to have my last undergrad college finals, and it was literally like a hurricane. So I want to say like shout out to my friends for staying with me back then, because it was definitely like a tornado in life. And I'll start it a month before college graduation during the season of my last undergrad finals. Honestly, life could have gone two ways. I either accept it, move on from it, and own my own life, or it could have gone the opposite end. Leaving home at 23-year-old Angela knows that Angela in the near future would go far, but everything that happened in the 4 years from 23 to 27 was way over expectation. So this is what I've learned after my dark time in life. After leaving home, I was able to attain a goal that 10-year-old me has always wanted to do, work over in Hong Kong. I wasn't interested in Hong Kong after college. I wanted to go to Beijing and worked as an expat project manager in Beijing for 3+ months, like 4 months if you include quarantine in Shanghai. My company flew me over there. After that, I also attained a goal that I wanted to accomplish in college, getting my PMP certification, because I'm currently a project manager, and I also attained that when I was 26. College Angela declared not going back to school for a master's, but 2.5 years later after graduation, I already decided to go back to school for my master's and started school again at 27. So yeah, I guess this is my script that I've wrote and was planning to share from a post when I was 20, going to be 28. But to go more deeper into it, when this all happened, I honestly lost a romantic relationship and my family relationship all in the same week. I think it was the same week or same. It happened like probably like last week of November and first week of December. And yeah, it's like I still remember that day when I went back to my parents, and my parents, because we had this whole fight already because of stuff, I still remember my parents just having a 2-hour talk with me, and that we couldn't come into conclusion of how to fix our relationship. And just from then on, that I was pushed out the door, and that was the start of my current, I would say, like, aloneness. When I was pushed out the door, I have never felt that loneliness ever. Like, it's just like you're just feeling like, oh, you suddenly just at one whole moment, you just don't have like your parents anymore, and you don't have like your family anymore. And in the beginning of this whole process, it's when you go through holidays and everybody is like, oh, I'm going home for holidays, it's Thanksgiving. Whew, I didn't know it's gonna be this hard.
Okay, let it. You got it. You got this.
Yeah, so during Thanksgiving and Christmas and whenever these like national global holidays, right? We're saying that there's Mother's Day, Father's Day. Everyone's like, oh, I'm going home to celebrate Thanksgiving, I'm going home to celebrate Christmas. Like, just to me, suddenly feels really empty inside. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be celebrating it by myself, and it just feels like sometimes I would like try to avoid social media during these times also, because like I just don't want to see anything. And it happens for a year or two of that feeling, and I told myself that, okay, this is going to be the end of it. I don't want to feel this emptiness anymore. And that's also one thing about going into China that helped me, because like, okay, I'm really telling myself, hey, this is a full stop, that how I'm feeling this way. I'm going to China. I experienced Chinese New Year by myself, but it's just to me because I went to a whole new location and experience, and because I know that, okay, I am by myself here, that it was a lot more okay. I would say one thing also, that why there's a lot of stuff that is value differences between my parents and me. For example, I can call myself pretty much a workaholic. I do like to work a lot, but for my parents, they are more like, why don't you just find a job, be content with your job, and then just, you know, have a handful of friends and just live on life simply. But for me, I am someone that likes to just continue climbing up the ladder. I just don't feel like I'm doing enough, and just continuously just wanting more in life. So there's a lot of those differences. And on top of that, just me and my mom clash a lot in terms of both very strong people. Like my mom would try to tell me her perspectives and want me to execute those perspectives, but on my end, I have my own perspectives, and it's just that I don't want to execute your perspective. I think I'm right, and she said she thinks she's right. So it's just like we both clash in that terms. I don't like to communicate my thoughts to my parents, because sometimes it's just like if you continuously tell someone something but they don't hear you, right? Like it's like you just told them something but it comes right out of the air, then I just feel like at a point there's no point in telling you anymore. I'm just gonna go do my own thing. You can have your own perspective. Okay, you do you, I do me. And it's just like, if I'm not harming you, I'm just gonna continue doing my own thing. So yeah, but throughout this whole thing, I think honestly I grew to become a more independent person. And I mean, from our very first episode where I understood being very independent, you can't depend on someone else other than yourself, is because like I understood from like when I left home at 2019, which I actually was I just turned 23. Yeah, I left home at 23. And yeah, I mean, from 23 to right now, I'm about to turn 28 in 1 month. I have dealt with everything myself, from leaving home, then continuing my job, to trying to find a job to go over to Beijing, and then actually moving to Beijing, and like literally having all of my belongings go with me to Beijing, and then move all my belongings from Beijing back over to the United States, and just like going through like another new job, and then now going back to grad school and being all on my own and taking on everything financially. And just like, it's like it just tells me that you need to be a very strong person, and that just always have backup plans, and like backup plans A, B, and C. Have your plan out your future, and try not to make a mistake on your steps, because like because in my terms, it's just that if you make a wrong step, it might ruin your reputation, ruin how you want others to identify you as.
I'd like to start with the whole moving out, you being completely on your own, no financial support, and just like completely taking on your career on your own, living on your own, moving abroad on your own, and now doing an MBA program on your own, and taking out loans with existing loans for undergrad too, right? I think that's so many moving parts, and now you're trying to like continually go up the ladder and like explore new avenues of achieving success, right? And I think that's so amazing to do, and I think you are so strong to do all of this on your own. And I've talked to, you know, like you've met my parents, like my dad has talked to you, and I've talked to my dad about your story, and he has said like numerous times how he also looks up to you and he thinks you're so strong. And it's like so admirable to be doing everything that you are doing. Personally, I think there is a fine line of continually pushing yourself, and maybe when we did talk about you feeling lonely your first few years on your own, right? Like, do you feel like, yes, like you have learned a lot from this experience being I guess, like, quote unquote ghosted by your family. And like now that you are on your own, do you feel like a part of you is pushing yourself so hard because that is your only way of coping with the feeling of loneliness?
Wow, this is a very sensitive topic. I pushing myself hard. I don't think I do that because of right now. I know from young that I am someone that is a very high achiever, and so I don't think that like being alone has pushed me to become like even more a go-getter, or like even like a person that is very aggressive in that terms. Like continuously climbing and doing better in life is what I've had a mindset of. But I think it all comes down to, I mean, during my last episode, it all comes down to like also my parents, right? And when young, my dad told me that there's one thing no one can take from you is knowledge. And I mean, continuously learning will give you knowledge, right? Because like he would teach. I still remember like when I was like 3 years old, he taught me the whole times table, and like there was a whole like song to it that he would make me listen to. And then like now, and then he would tell me like, look, like now that you have knowledge, can you give back to me? You can't, right? And so it's just that phrase that has been ingrained in my brain since when I was like 3 or 4 years old, that it's what made me today that I need to continuously learning so that I have all this information that no one else has.
Do you feel like sometimes you're overextending yourself and over pushing yourself because it's a coping mechanism for you to just rely, like you're saying, like in your mind, like just rely on myself, because there is no one out, like there is, like my family can't even be relied on, so I need to like focus on myself, where in reality you do feel the pain and you do feel the loneliness and you do want to mend this relationship with your family, right? Like, do you feel that way?
I would be half-half. Because the values are so different with my parents, I do like my own freedom. But at the end of the day, like these are my parents and I do want to fix the relationship with them. Like I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't tell you. Like, I mean, I went to China to go see my grandparents, right? And then I went to China, went to Macau, and then I recently went to Brazil to go see like my uncles and aunts and stuff. And it's like,
this is like going a way back to the very beginning of what you said that I noticed was that like you had this falling out with your parents while you were technically in college, just coming out of college, which was like that phase in your life where you also did like still like the whole like partying scene. You wanted to do all these different things, right? Whereas now in this current state, like a phase of your life, like you are really focused on this one thing, which is school, education, your job, right? And like looking for a new job. And you do have time also like for family, and you only have like one or two hobbies. You're not just like doing everything all over the place, like going out until like midnight. I think this is a different phase in your life. You've grown, right? And I'm sure this is something that can be like remediated. Is that the word? Like it can be fixed, like this relationship, you know? And like you are coming from an older, more mature mindset, right? And I'm sure that like if you do have the opportunity to talk to your parents, like they will understand where you're coming from, and hopefully you will understand where they were coming from, like why. Do you know what I mean? Like there are differences. At the end of the day, there will always be differences between you and your family and your parents, but as you get older, I think, or at least for me too, like as I've gotten older, I understand my parents more, and like I understand their perspectives more. Mm-hmm. And I think like talking to them in a calm way, they would probably understand your perspective being 21, 20, 22, 23, right? Like I think you just need time to talk to them is all. And it just sucks. It does suck that like you guys are both so stubborn. Like that's the worst part of it all, is that like you are stubborn. But I think at the end of the day, like you have grown so much and you've become so independent. But I think there's a certain extent of like being independent and being so hyper independent that you are convincing yourself that you don't need anyone else. When in reality, every human needs
each other.
Like, love. And yeah, especially like your family who, you know, as you said yourself, birthed you, right? And like raised you to be who you are today.
I actually like know about that. Like I'm not gonna lie, like I went to therapy about this, and with therapy it did help a little bit. And then I recently talked to my uncle about my story, and it just opened me up a little bit. I previously was really holding on to the story because I just thought that I just did a lot of stuff that is not correct. You can say like it was like not respecting my parents. And I'm saying that because my parents have like a really perfect bar. Like the things that they probably like, if you can say 100% is like a perfect life, like they probably only, their bar is at like 95%. Like they didn't do anything wrong. They were really like your angel child, because their bar is so high that every little thing that I might be doing might be like wrong to them, right? Like partying, they don't really party when they were young. They really focused on like achievements and stuff. So it's just that. And then when I was able to talk to my uncle, which his bar was probably set a lot lower, and he was just like, wow, you're just like a normal person. Like you didn't do anything wrong. Like you're just living like life. I mean, doing something wrong is really like doing illegal things that will get you into jail. Like your type of wrong is that you're just a kid and wants to live life that might not be the same lifestyle that your parents want. And it just opened up my eye, and I was like, wow, that just like hearing that come from a uncle is helped me like bring out the part that like, I didn't do anything wrong.
Maybe because they are immigrants, they see the world as like a dangerous place, and they want to protect you, and they want you to remain in that bubble of theirs. And I don't think there's anything wrong with either perspectives. But at the end of the day, I think if anything, you're living your life exactly the way you should be living your life. And the fact that you did go out and decide to do your own thing without your parents, unfortunately it had to be 5 years, right? But like you did do it, and you did explore, and you were able to see your own potential and how far and how strong you are, and where you can take yourself in life. Like that is great, right? And that's like such an amazing feat to do that not a lot of other people can do. But just to remind you that like everyone's human.
All right, that's enough about me. So let's hear about your story as well, and your ups and downs in life, and how did you overcome that? And yeah.
So previously in your story, you were talking about how like you had left like your family, and then you were also going through a breakup at the time, and then it was like post-grad, so there's so many new things that was happening in your life. And I kind of had something a little bit similar for me about a year and a half ago at this point. No, 2 years ago at this point. So December 2021, I was living in New York, and I was basically completely on my own. And I moved out of Manhattan, and I moved to actually Jersey City, which was like a river across from Manhattan. So it was like even further away from like all of my friends. And it was a whole new state because it's like Jersey too, right? And so I was working and living on my own for about 6 months when I felt like at my previous job, I was just not being super valued. Just the culture in New York was a definite like culture shock compared to like the corporate life in LA, which was what I was like used to, like doing my internship in LA and like growing up in LA. Just the people and like how they operate, it was just very different for me. And I definitely felt very alone, like without my parents. At the time I was like 24, 25. And I just felt, yeah, I felt like I was like being mistreated at the end of the day. And so I had left my job without anything else planned, which maybe wasn't the best thing for me at the time. And very shortly after that, I was going through like a breakup at the time too. And both of those things I think were really shocking for me. And I'm sure everyone has like left a job before, right? And like everyone has gone through a breakup before. But I think like being in your early 20s, it's definitely a really massive shock when you're going through it for the first time, because like the job that I had left, it was the first job I've ever had. Like I was paying for rent, which is like over 2K like a month, jobless. And like I didn't think, you know, I was like, what if I never find another job? And like this guy that I was like with, like I was so like in love with, and I didn't think, you know, like when you're young, like you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna picture my life with this person, and like this is how like my life is gonna plan. I'm gonna be working like this amount of years, and I'm gonna marry this person at this age, and just like all of that, right? And like all of that basically was gone within like a month's time, right? Like I never knew any of that was going to happen. First I was going through my breakup, and then I had left my job. So the first thought was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Like the love of my life is gone. Like it's over for me. And then I left the job, and then it was more like, well, F the guy, like F relationships. I need to freaking sustain myself and like provide for myself. How am I going to make money to like keep paying rent for the next 7 months that I have this lease for? And then really shortly after that, I had gone through like a yearly annual routine like checkup with a doctor, like physical. And without going too deep into it, I had like some health issues that I had ran into, and it was pretty serious at the time. And, you know, like once you've lost the love of your life, then you've lost your job, and you're like, oh my God, money, love. But then you lose your health. And that was the last thing. And it was all in 1 month. And it was more like, at the end of the day, like health is everything. It's more than money. It's more than, you know, like a love relationship, right? Like health is your entire life. And at that point, I think that was when I lost all sense of identity for myself. I truly just didn't know like who I was anymore. Like I didn't think, like I was like, I'm not an accountant. I'm not, you know, like I don't have the love of my life. I am sick. Like I'm literally sick. And when you're sick, the people around you can understand that you're sad and you're not well, but they can't understand it because they've never felt that way. Like they've never been sick. They've never been in your exact situation. I was such an open book, you know, being a Sagittarius, like whatever. Like I was just such an open book. Like you can ask me anything and I would just tell you anything and everything to all my friends, like even to like a stranger on the street. Like if we connect, I could tell you my whole story. But I think after those 3 like things that happened in a row, and all of it happening in 1 month, in 1 month time, in the same month, it just knocked me down so hard. I just didn't know who I was. And I couldn't really even share that with other people because number one, I felt like I would burden them. I would burden the people in my life because can they do anything to help? No. Can they understand how I'm feeling? To a certain extent, but not really, right? And so I felt like my mindset was like, what's the point in sharing? And so I kind of just like bottled all of this up to myself. And I think down the line that hurt me even more, because then just keeping it all in, I'm crying to myself to sleep every single night. When I wake up, I'm crying again. Yeah, I like lost so much weight. I didn't really like know how to help myself. And I was like going to doctor's appointments, getting like biopsies, and just like doing all of the research and just all of that on my own for the first time like in my life. I felt so isolated, so alone, so like misunderstood. Like the doctors tell you like, oh, like you'll be fine, but like how would they know, right? Like you're the patient, like they're just telling you things like that reassurance things that may or may not be true.
Ask you a question. Is it more mental health or was it a like physical health?
No, it was like a physical thing. Like I had to like find special doctors and like get biopsies on my own, like going to these clinics on my own and not really having people like by my side. And yeah, I was like, yeah, I'm saying like not having people by my side, but in reality, I also didn't want people by my side. I just didn't want them to know such a private thing in my life. And that also made me feel very weird too, because I went from like being such an open book to like being so private, not telling people, not sharing how I'm feeling. I think all of that like kind of messed with my head, and I just like really didn't know. I kind of just like lost all sense of my identity basically at that point. But what had happened was I was just like in communication with my parents, who was like across the country. I was like in New York, they're in California. I was just telling them like I was going through a really hard time, and thank God I have my parents in my life, and they basically told me to, like convince me to like move back home. Like I didn't have a job to go to anyway. So I kind of just went home for like a month and a half, and I used that time to really focus on myself for the first time in my life. So yeah, I really decided for the first time in my life in a really long time to really focus on myself and really put health first. That was like my main priority, mental and physical, because at that point I was so mentally sad that it was also affecting my health in a different way, and my physical health in a different way as well, like on top of what I was already facing. And some of the people in my life said like, mental health can manifest into like further physical health, right? Issues.
Yes,
and so so I really prioritized that above anything. And I spent about like 3 or 4 weeks just like, I joined ClassPath. I did like a different workout every single day. I went to like Club Pilates, solid core, yoga, hot yoga, dancing, like just try to keep my body active every single day, and eat super California green healthy like bowls, like smooth green smoothies like every single day. I got really into shrooms, like mushrooms, like healing shrooms, right? Like reishi, like lion's mane, like turkey tail, like that's a whole nother thing in itself, but just like very into supplements I got into, right? And then I started going to like meditation as well. So like sound bath meditation. And it was just like, it really helped my mental and well-being. And the person who led that meditation class actually really changed my life. Like she also came from a corporate world, and she really changed my life, and she helped me open my eyes into things that actually really mattered in life, which was, thank God I have family, I have friends who love me in my life, I have people to fall back on. Like I can heal myself, like if I just prioritize like exercise, eating healthier, and like hopefully that will like bring my body back around, and like my body can heal itself, and like with jobs, like there are so many other jobs out there, like nobody's gonna have that one single job for the rest of their life. With love, like boys come and go, like we will always find a different person and like the right person for you with time. And now that I've matured, like through that 1 month of healing myself, mentally, it helped me get mental and physical clarity. And it helped me grow a lot, like just going through that hardship and like knowing that, having reassurance that I have my own self and I am strong, strong enough to pick myself back up and, like, you know, work each day at a time to like get healthier and like heal myself mentally and physically, but also that I do have people in my life who really do genuinely care. And even if they can't do much about it, just knowing that I can like slowly open up to them and they can listen and they are there for me in any way that they can be, it really did help me find myself again, I guess, and like realize and look at the world differently from like a much more older, mature mindset versus like a 23. Like I definitely grew a lot within that 1 month and like the year after, and I just feel like a completely different person. I don't even feel anywhere near 24, 25, even though I'm just like 27. Like I feel so much older and so much wiser, and I know what I value and what I want out of life, versus if I really look back at 22, 23, I had no idea what was going on in my life and like where I wanted to be. And I feel like now that I know myself more, at 23, I didn't even really have that much of an identity. Like I was kind of just doing everything status quo, like what other people were doing, like how, you know, and now I just understand myself more. And I feel like I will understand myself even more, and I will continue to evolve in a more mature way as I get older, like into my 30s, well into my 40s as well. And I'm just excited for those more adult chapters of my life.
Wow. But yeah, like you talked a lot of parts about a lot of topics that I totally agree about. Like, for example, like taking care of yourself, right? Like this health is wealth, that if you don't even have the health and the energy to provide to this world, like you don't really have a job, right? I mean, you can't love other people. So like taking care of yourself and being able to give love to others is very important. But at the end of the day, like love yourself first. What else? And also like just boys come and go. I think that honestly, my perspective is that life is kind of like a bus and you're the driver. And there would be people that will be coming onto your bus and sitting there for one stop, and they will be then like their stop comes up, or their stop is next and they have to leave the bus, right? Or there's some people that would be coming on your bus at the first stop and they would be riding with you until the last stop. Or there's some people that will be coming into your bus like middle of the way and then they'll ride all the way to the end or stuff. So it's like really like that type of theory that I have. And on top of that, like take care of your bus, right? Like if your bus doesn't work, you can't even have these people come on your bus. So remember to always maintain your bus, fix your bus, so that you'll be able to drive it all the way down to the end of the stop. So yeah.
Right. And I think what I learned from all of this is that it didn't take me a month to heal. Like it was like continuously, you know, like healing isn't linear. It's never just like, you know, I'm healing, I'm great. It's like I'm healing, but oh my God, I feel this way again today. And I feel so bad and I'm having such a bad day. And then the next day it's like getting better. And it's like up, down, up, down, up, down. And I think it took me almost over a year for me to like finally feel okay with where I was at. And, you know, like get a new job and like get over that person that I was so in love with and, you know, like turn my health around, which it has been, and living just a different lifestyle. And that's actually one of the reasons why I like did move back from New York to LA, is just because like I'm kind of just over that whole like drinking, having fun, partying until like 2, 3 a.m. Like that's such a fun city lifestyle, and I understand why people love it. But now that I'm older and I have like faced like those health issues, like I've cut drinking out like so much. Like it's like the last thing on my mind. Like I don't even like it anymore just because I know how much not drinking can do for my body. And I just feel like my lifestyle, like for my, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Can we also add in there that there's a lot of calories in the alcohol?
Yes, and there is a lot of calories as well. Exactly. But like, yeah, just like my lifestyle, I think like through and through, I'm just a California girl is what I learned when I was in New York. And when I was like facing all of that and like the types of people I was dealing with, like I'm just such a California girl. Like I resonate with the way, like the people here, like their personalities, it just like fits better, you know? And like the foods that we eat here versus like New York food, like California people are just like so much more health conscious, and like we have so many more like salad bowls, and like it's just such a different lifestyle. And I genuinely feel like I am my most peaceful, calm, and healthier state when I'm in California, you know? And that's what I've learned. And, you know, growing up is like realizing that like I don't need to be in a fast-paced like city for the rest of my life, and I don't need to be fighting for my life and like paying so much money with no in-unit laundry. Like it's just like I feel like I've grown so much, and I've put all of that young energy this makes me sound so old, but I put all of that behind me, and I'm like now just in a much more peaceful, calm girl era. Yeah.
You're in an era where you know what you want, and you're living the lifestyle that you actually want to live long-term wise, instead of like, I mean, you experience what you previously wanted also, right? You previously wanted to check off your box, like experience the city life, right? Going to meet a lot of people, maybe partying until 2 a.m., right? But you have that checked off on your list, and now you're like, okay, I've experienced that lifestyle, that wasn't for me, and like I need something to sustain on the long-term wise, and your current type of lifestyle, a slower pace, knowing what you want and actually growing to be the lifestyle that you want in like the long-term wise, right? Yeah.
Well, I think not like that wasn't for me. I think that point in time was for me when I was like 24, 25, 26.
The different stages,
just like different stages in my life. And now that I'm well into my later 20s, I think like I'm done with that part of my life. And like there are so many friends that I've made who will probably be there for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And like they're probably one of my closest friends now. Like I've made such a community out there. But I think like me being one of the first people to move back, like I was just so sure that that's no longer what I want, how I want to live my life. And I'm so glad that I am moving forward in this way for myself, you know? Yeah. And we're just all different people. Like some people just want to do that for the rest of their life. And I just want a more calm and peaceful and less like drinking and healthier lifestyle life in my later 20s, but to each their own.
I mean, ultimately it comes down to how do you want to design your own life, right? Some people love that city life and love that like busy, going out to have fun, like meeting new people type of lifestyle. And then there's me and you, where we just like more of a calmer, like a chiller type of lifestyle, and being able to sustain that like on the long-term wise, and actually developing our careers, growing with family, and
yeah. Well, should we wrap this up? I feel like
that's definitely a very long one, but we did talk about a lot of good parts, and honestly, hopefully all the listeners will be able to take some of those tips, know that they're not alone, and that like our main goal is to spread positivity and to let you know that we experience this and is able to come out and become a stronger self, right? I'm sure that everyone would be able to do that also, and that you're not alone if you're experiencing some of these stuff or have experienced this before. So yeah. And any last words?
No, just thank you guys for tuning in with us, our 20 somethings confessions podcast. we're still learning how to make each episode better. But we hope that you'll join us in our next episode next time, where we'll basically go in depth about Angela's experience moving abroad to China and what it was like to be in China during 2020, during that whole pandemic COVID craze. And basically we'll have her share experiences where she learned what was different and what was like the same in terms of corporate life and like different like America lifestyle versus China lifestyle, and what it's just like living abroad on your own. And I think it'll be a great and really interesting episode to tune into. So hopefully you'll join us there, and we hope that you take care, and we'll see you guys soon.
All right, bye.